Welcome to this week's Wednesdays in Prayer. We are giving God thanks once more for the opportunity to gather for fellowship and prayer. Our reflection this week comes from St. John chapter 5 verses 1 through to 19. Sometime later, Jesus went up to Jerusalem for one of the Jewish festivals. Now there is in Jerusalem near the sheep gate a pool, which in Aramaic is called Bethesda, and which is surrounded by 5 covered colonnades. Here a great number of disabled people used to lie, the blind, the lame, the paralyzed. One who has been there had been an invalid for 38 years. When Jesus saw him lying there and learned that he had been in this condition for a long time, he asked him, "Do you want to get well?" "Sir," the invalid replied, "I have no one to help me into the pool when the water is stirred. While I am trying to get in, someone else goes down ahead of me." Then Jesus said to him, "Get up, pick up your mat and walk." At once the man was cured. He picked up his mat and walked. The day on which this took place was a Sabbath. And so the Jewish leaders said to the man who had been healed, "It is the Sabbath. The law forbids you to carry your mat." But he replied, "The man who made me well said to me, 'Pick up your mat and walk.'" So they asked him, "Who is this fellow who told you to pick it up and walk?" The man who was healed had no idea who it was, for Jesus had slipped away into the crowd that was there. Later Jesus found him at the temple and said to him, "See, you are well again. Stop sinning, or something worse may happen to you." The man went away and told the Jewish leader that it was Jesus who made him well. So because Jesus was doing these things on the Sabbath, the Jewish leaders began to persecute him. In his defense, Jesus said to them, "My Father is always at work to this very day, and I too am working." For this reason, they tried all the more to kill him. Not only was he breaking the Sabbath, but he was even calling God his own Father, making himself equal with God. Jesus gave them this answer, "Verily I tell you, the Son can do nothing by himself. He can do only what he sees his Father doing, because whatever the Father does, the Son also does." The word of the Lord. Many of us read the Bible and just look at the obvious without digging deeper to learn more than can be revealed. Nothing is wrong in asking questions about things that are written in the Word of God. It is by asking such questions that God will not only supply answers, but disclose some hidden revelations that can be a source of blessing and inspiration to our lives. The story we are about to look at is one such case where we must ask the question, why did he do it? The story about the healing of the man who was sick for 38 years made a wonderful miracle story and demonstrated Jesus' authority and power in healing the sick. One would have thought that such feat would have been met with rejoicing and celebration on the part of everyone, whether you know the man or not. Imagine the headline this would have made today in the newspaper or cable news channels. "Crippled man walks after 38 years. Many would be rushing to get his story, as well as the story of the man who made this possible. This would be a bestseller. However, not everyone saw it this way. There was one problem: the day on which the healing took place. It was the Sabbath. Except for that, everything else would have gone well, and this was where the problem was for some people. Now, one must ask the question, why did Jesus go ahead and do this? Didn't he know better? He could have easily said to the lame man, "Meet me here tomorrow and I will heal you." After all, what is one more day? If the man waited for 38 years, one more day would not kill him. So why did Jesus go ahead and do what he knew would have caused a problem, breaking the Sabbath? It makes you wonder. So what should have been a story with a beautiful ending started a conflict. Jesus must explain why he did it. Everyone seemed to forget that for 38 years this man was suffering, could not walk, could not work for himself, had to be living off the mercies of others, enduring the scorn and insult of those who went by. There was no one to change his circumstance in life. No one seemed to care, and now all that have changed. This man could now have a dignified life once and for all. He could now work and care for himself. He could find a place in society that would not treat him as handicapped or a misfit. His self-esteem would be different. He could now take some pride in himself. He could now feel like a real man, making a valuable contribution to society. His whole life had changed and took on new meaning. This was great, excellent. But this was not the issue for some. It was not important to them. They wanted to know why he did this on the Sabbath. And for this, they were mad and wanted him dead. Jesus' response is to be found in verse 17. I must work just as my Father works. You will notice that in his response, Jesus does not contradict the Sabbath law. He is not there to abolish the law either. The use of time is God's prerogative, and he reserves the right how one day will be used from the next. While human labor may cease on the Sabbath, God's labor does not. While we may take a day off from work, God does not. While we may take time for rest from labor, God does not. The rabbis had recognized that some of God's work continued on the Sabbath. They taught that God used 3 keys on the Sabbath: the key to birth, the key to rainfall, and the key to resurrection of the dead. It was accepted by the rabbis that God's Sabbath rest did not mean that he had ceased to give life, for babies are born on the Sabbath, and rain falls. God is always, even on the Sabbath, the giver of life. So Jesus turned to his detractors and said, whatever the Father does, the Son does likewise. His will and work are identical to that of the Father, and he must be obedient to the Father's will and work. Sabbath or no Sabbath, my Father is still working, and I must work also. Jesus is doing God's work. He is restoring life. Like Father, like Son. This is Jesus' defense of his healing on the Sabbath. On the Sabbath, God does not cease from the work of giving life. Neither does Jesus, who is obedient to God. Life and love flow from the heart of God at all times and in all places to all people. And so they flow from Jesus' obedient heart and hands towards a Samaritan woman, a royal official, and a nameless, sick, lonely man, even on the Sabbath. This raises the question of how we work as children of God. It requires us to state whether or not we can make a similar statement with boldness and confidence. Are we prepared to be obedient to the will and work of God, regardless of what others may think? Would we rather please the crowd so that we may be in good standing with everyone than to make a difference in the life of someone who's hurting? Isn't it a fact that there are many people out there today who are sad, lonely, and depressed? But we would rather not be the one to minister to them because of what people will say. There are many Christians who would not want to be seen associating with some persons because of who they are. They have terrible reputations. They have been called by certain names. Their past have been questionable, and so we walk far from them, so that we will not get into the conflict with the righteous ones among us. There are those of us who are so holy that we are more concerned about our reputation than we are about helping the hurting. We will see those who need our help, but the first thing we think about is what others will say. And so we would rather walk by with an impeccable reputation intact and allow others to suffer. In our society today, we must encounter the sick, the lonely, the drug addict, the alcoholic, the AIDS victim, the homosexual, convicts, prostitutes, etc. Are we prepared to offer life to them by being their friends, offering a word of encouragement, listening to their stories? Or we just don't care? Jesus says, regardless of when, where, or who, I must keep working just as my Father is working. Another amazing fact that this story reveals is who Jesus is. He is the one who comes from heaven to give life, God's life, abundant and eternal. He is the one who comes to save the world and its pitiful, lonely, sad inhabitants from perishing. Therefore, Jesus cannot not heal on the Sabbath, because the Father works for life at all times, and He and the Father are one. It is not in His nature to hold back life. It is His very nature to give it. Therefore, He had no choice but to do that which was natural, whether the authorities like it or not. Who are you? A child of God? One who claims that the Spirit of God lives in you? Well, if that is so, then you must understand that you should have the nature of Christ in you. We are told to be imitators of Christ and to let the mind of Christ be in us. That is, we are to be like Christ, to think like Him, to work like Him. To be a Christian is to be Christ-like, like Father, like Son. And if you are like Christ, then it must be in your nature to love, to giving life to those who need it, to reach out to the hurting, to make a difference in their lives, whether others like it or not. If you are Christ-like, you cannot pass by while injustice is being meted out to others and you do nothing. If you are Christ-like, you cannot be the one to treat others unjustly. If you are Christ-like, it must be in your nature to offer peace and neighborliness to others, even when it will not make you popular with everyone. If you are Christ-like, you must exhibit the fruit of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, meekness, gentleness, long-suffering, goodness, faith, temperance. If you are Christ-like, you must be an agent of change. You must make a difference. You must give life. Why must you do it? Because the Father and the Son are still working, and we must keep working also. Whatever they do, we must do also. Amen. Today, our prayer focus will be for persons doing surgery. Let us pray. Dear God and our Father, today we come to you on behalf of the many friends and families who are preparing themselves for upcoming surgeries. We know that some of these surgeries are very delicate, and as such, many persons, including families, are anxious about the procedure as time draws near. We pray that they will be given a spirit of calm and trust as they prepare themselves, that their anxiety will be alleviated as they look to you as the one who understands all our fears and worries. Help them in this moment to remember that you are the great physician and sustainer of life. Help them to understand that you are always in control of every situation, and this is not different. We pray for the surgeons, that during the procedures, you will give them steady hands and clear minds. Allow them to do their task with the utmost ability, and that they will be able to identify and treat the problem. We are trusting you to watch over them throughout the entire operation, even holding them in your arms while the medical team do their work. Lord, we do not know your plans in all of this, but we pray that through the surgeries, persons can come to experience your love and care in a real way. We ask that you use this situation to reveal your purpose in their lives. We pray that they will come to a better understanding of what you have in store for them as you take them to the next stage of their lives. Healing God, we further ask that after a successful surgery, that the recovery process will be a good one. We know there will be pains and discomfort for some time, but pray that they will exhibit a heart of gratitude and thankfulness for the work you have done. Help them to realize that you have provided them with an opportunity to continue doing what you would want them to do in their service to you and humanity. We pray that you will use this experience to draw them closer to you and as a testimony of your goodness and grace. We commend them to you now, Lord, as we say thanks. In your name we pray. Amen. Thanks for sharing with us again, friends. I'm Oral Campbell. God bless you. Until next time.